Welcome to this session of mindfulness, awareness, and compassion practice. Today we'll go through a few short practices, starting with centering, getting grounded. We spend so much time up in our heads, we're going to get more into our bodies, because body and mind being synchronized is what our goal is. In the same way, the body is always in the present, the mind goes to the past and the future. Our mind is like a time machine. And so what we want to do to be synchronized is be aware when our mind has wandered. And the practice is basically coming back to the technique that we've chosen. And there are a variety of techniques. But always, the body is present, the environment is present, perceptions happen only in the present. It's the thinking mind that wanders into the past and the future. Now, we don't want to make the thinking mind a villain, because we use our thinking mind. The point is to know when we're using it and when we don't need to use it. As we practice, what will happen is our mind sometimes will get caught by a thought that leads to another thought that leads to another thought, and we're off into a daydream. Whenever that happens, we acknowledge it with a smile and a sense of humor, to be kind to ourselves. And we can punctuate it with a little label, a little mental label, a word like thinking or wandering, something that's not pejorative, not negative, but just descriptive. And it's a one-word shorthand for I was lost in thoughts, I'm back. Now, what was I doing? In fact, the ancient Indian word that is now translated as mindfulness is, the literal translation is recollection or remembering. So remembering what you were doing. Like heading off to the kitchen, getting distracted by something, taking care of that, and then walking to the kitchen going, okay, why did I come in here? That's a moment of lack of mindfulness. So rather than that, we get to the kitchen, we go, I came in to get a glass of water. Okay, so the practice is, at that moment, we're already back. People talk about coming back to the present. Well, you can't come back to the present because that's where you are. That's our default mode. So the practice is coming back to what our intention was. And when we do these practices, it's helpful to not just do them for ourselves, but to have the intention that I'm going to do this so that I can better communicate with others. And when we do that, then we set that intention, and it shapes the way that we work with the practice. So it's just not just self-centered. Then we do the practice, and as I described, of just coming back to whatever the object of our attention that we chose was for this period of time. And then at the end, we reaffirm our intention, kind of a sandwich. So let's get started with our posture and our body, because we're going to connect with the body first. Now, it's helpful, for this first section, we're going to have our eyes closed, but it's helpful to have a posture that allows you to breathe easily, to stay awake, because when we lie down, we tend to fall asleep, so we're sitting up, and that you can stay relatively still for a period of time, because if we do this standing up, there's a tendency to walk and move. ultimately, we're going to be doing mindfulness practice throughout the day. So after we've settled and centered with our eyes closed, then we open our eyes and work with the environment, because we don't walk around all day with our eyes closed. Because of that, it's helpful to turn either your device or your chair, or both, so that you're not looking directly into the screen, but you can see some space in front of you. Okay, so we'll get started with the posture. However you're sitting, get your sit bones centered on the chair or cushion. If you're on a cushion, your legs will be naturally cross-legged in front of you. If you're in a chair, your feet can be flat on the floor, about hip width apart, with your lower legs from your knees to your heels perpendicular to the floor. But if your legs are long and your knees are higher than your hips, it's helpful, takes some strain off your back and your hips to have your knees lower than your hips. So you can just cross your legs at your ankles right there and let your knees widen, and then they'll be lower than your hips. Feel your torso. We want to be upright but not rigid, and not leaning to one side or the other, not forward or back. And you can tilt a little bit in those directions until you find that centered place that's neither leaning left or right, not forward or back. As for your arms, your upper arms, it's helpful if they're just hanging straight down from your shoulders, again perpendicular to the ground. And your forearms can be along your thighs, hands palm down on each thigh respectively. And if your upper arms are just hanging straight down from your shoulders, you won't be pulling yourself forward or pushing yourself back. One thing that's helpful for opening your lungs is feel like your sternum, your breastbone, is moving slightly up and forward. Just move it slightly up and forward, just a tiny bit, 1/4 of an inch. And you'll see that your chest opens up, your shoulders go back a little bit, your shoulder blades may even pinch a little bit. We're using a little bit of tension to raise that. Once you're in position and you can hold that, it'll start to feel more comfortable. Your head is balanced on your neck, so at the back of your head is a straight line down towards your tailbone, not tilted back or tilted forward, and not pushed forward. So if you pull the back of your head back in line with your spine, your chin will come in naturally. It creates a nice flow in through your nostrils and straight down into your lungs. We want to breathe in through our nostrils. If some air comes out through your mouth, that's fine. So your lips can either be very slightly open or lightly parted. And your tongue can just rest naturally wherever it is, or in some traditions, and if this is comfortable, you can let it float up so the tip of your tongue rests gently against your upper palate just behind your front teeth. It's said that reduces the flow of saliva. And people have asked, well, what do I do if I feel that saliva? Is it okay to swallow? Yes. Just go ahead and swallow it. We want our posture to be still, but not rigidly so. So if you feel an ache or a pain, it's okay to move, but just know that before you do, don't just do it suddenly. Just have the intention, say, I'm going to move now, and then move. So that even that is contained within our mindfulness practice. We want to be, as I said, fully inhabiting our body, not just up in our head. So really scan your body, release any unnecessary tension, and really feel the depth front to back as well as side to side, your three-dimensional body. Your face, scalp, forehead. There's distance between your face and the back of your head. Ears and jaw. Let your jaw soften without your mouth hanging open. Neck and shoulders. We're so clenched and we don't even know it, working on computers so much. Just let your shoulders hang. And with the little bit of tension that you use to raise your breastbone, you'll feel your shoulders hanging straight down, even with your ears. Torso, your upper back, rib cage, lower back, belly, deep belly and pelvis. Again, we clench our deep belly and pelvic region more than we realize. Without losing your posture, just let them soften, let them relax. With your shoulders hanging down, let that softness flow down your arms, out to your hands. Just let everything be soft. Hips, thighs, knees, calves, ankles, and feet. And back to your torso, really feel the depth. Let the breath happen naturally. Be an observer rather than a director, but notice that as your body breathes in, there's an expansion. As it breathes out, there's a contraction. Let your body breathe itself. Feel the depth front to back. And your deep belly will feel like, it's almost like you could imagine that the air is going down past your lungs and filling your whole torso. That's a feeling created by the diaphragm, pushing down to bring the air in and pulling up to expel the air. But you can imagine that your deep belly is expanding. You can feel it expanding and contracting. Imagine that it's filling and emptying. And again, let the body breathe itself. Long or short, deep or shallow, doesn't matter. And if you rest your awareness down there, deep in the core of your torso, it's quieter than up in your head. Just rest your awareness there. And then gently open your eyes about halfway so that you're looking down just a couple of feet in front of you. And soften your gaze so that it's more like you're looking at the space your body is sitting in than an object at the end of your field of vision. So we're aware of our posture, feeling of the filling and emptying as the breath goes in and out. and the space that our body's sitting in. That's the object of our awareness. And if our attention drifts off into a daydream, when you realize it, you're already back. Come back to the feeling of filling and emptying within the posture and the space. And we'll do that for a couple of minutes. As the gong fades, relax and move around a little bit. Get ready to take a fresh start. We're going to be looking further ahead, so you may need to move your device or your seat a little bit so that you can see to the extent of this full extent of the space that you're sitting in. Now reconnect with your posture. Sit bones upright, legs, arms, hands, head and shoulders and jaw. Just let your eyes be naturally open. And looking in what direction they naturally fall. It'll be below horizontal, not too far down, somewhere in the middle. Soften your gaze. Open up to the full peripheral vision, side to side, top to bottom. You may feel like you need to open your eyes a little bit more, but just open and then relax them. In the same way that the breath goes out and mixes with the atmosphere in the room, the air in the room, and dissolves into that atmosphere so they become mixed. In the same way, let your mind open up to the space in front, to the sides, above, all around you, so that your awareness is mixed with spaciousness. Not trying to see, to look at any particular thing, but just seeing. All the colors, shapes, and shades of light and dark in your field of vision. Breathe out, open into spaciousness. Breathe out, open into spaciousness. Again, ride with the breath that happens naturally. Let your body do the breathing. Just let your mind use the breath as a vehicle to open up. Without moving your eyes, your awareness can take in the whole picture like a landscape. You may notice particular details, or just have the panoramic view. Whatever you're seeing is happening in the present moment. Listen for sounds. Breathe out and open up to sound coming from all directions. Loud or soft, high or low pitch, near or far. Let your mind hear without listening for anything particular. Leaving your eyes open, tune into bodily sensations. Messages that parts of your body are giving to your mind. Aches, itches, cool air on your hands and face. You might even feel your heart beating, your pulse, in different places in your body. Just feel without trying to feel anything in particular. Breathe out into open spaciousness to whatever perceptions you're experiencing. Watch as your mind moves by itself from one perception to another. Vision becomes more prominent, then sound becomes more prominent, then feeling, in no particular order. Just let it happen. There can also be smell and taste. But sight, sound, and bodily sensations are more prominent. And there's one more thing that we perceive. Thoughts, appearing like bubbles coming up to the surface of our mind. You can be an observer of those thoughts, just letting them come up, dwell for a moment, and disappear in your spacious awareness. Breathe out, open, and notice thoughts appearing in your mind. It can be verbal discourse, like a conversation you're having. It can involve sense perceptions, like a memory. And if thoughts take you away into a daydream, again, whenever you realize it, smile and acknowledge the mind has this tendency to wander. Come back to your body, breathe out, and open to your perceptions. As the gong fades, imagine that your awareness expands farther and farther out in all directions. Out as far as you can see, as far as you can hear, out all the way to the sky. Imagining that your awareness is as big as the sky, above and in all directions. And for this last practice, a compassion practice, you can do it with your eyes open or closed. You can even do it with your hand over your heart center, the middle of your chest, at the height of your heart. and contemplate that all beings on the earth live under that same sky. Different places, but the same sky. All exist on the same earth, land or water. Different places, but the same earth. Functioning in the same atmosphere, air or water. All living beings. Same atmosphere. Know that we also share the basic desire to be content, to have happiness, health, to feel good, and the same desire to be free from pain and suffering, physical and mental. And rouse from your open heart of compassion, of kindness and caring, the wish that all beings, including yourself, could be released from the pain and suffering they're going through. Wish that instead they could be filled with peace, health, happiness, contentment, feelings of well-being. And set up a rhythm with your breathing, so that as you're breathing in, you imagine that they're being freed from suffering, yourself included. And as you breathe out, that they're being filled with peace, health, and happiness. Breathing in, draw out all the suffering. Breathing out, send all the happiness. If a particular person or group of people come to mind, or animals, focus on them. Breathing in, relieving them of that suffering. Breathing out, sending them peace, health, and happiness. And finally, we go deeper and understand that the cause of so much suffering in the world are the negative emotions of selfishness, all based on selfishness and ignorance. Ignorance, misunderstanding, intolerance, hatred, fear, anger, jealousy, greed, lust for power. Imagine that you could, as you breathe in, imagine that you're drawing all of those poisonous emotions out from all beings, pulling them out of yourself as well. As if drawing out the poison from a wound. As you breathe out, replace them with patience, acceptance, tolerance, understanding, wisdom, love, compassion, caring, generosity, kindness. And as the gong fades, let go of your imagination. Come back, lower your gaze, feel your body breathing within the space. Just be present for a couple of breaths. Thank you for your practice. And as I mentioned earlier, we start with an intention that this isn't just for ourselves. And the last practice that we did was for the benefit of the whole world. So we want to carry that intention with us and dedicate whatever benefit came from our practice today for the benefit of others, and the intention that it makes us a better person and able to communicate better, to listen, to understand others better. So you can repeat after me or put in your own words. May the practice we have just done be of benefit to others, even more so than to myself. And that's the ultimate in generosity. So thank you for your kind attention in this session of mindfulness, awareness, and compassion practice. And I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself if you'd like. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share. They'll probably be of benefit to others as well. What a nice hug. Steve.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome, Henry. I saw Steve on mute. Did you want to say something?
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Felix from the Netherlands. Oh, and Greg is in Poland. Such a nice international day. That's great. And Laura's in Mexico, I believe.
Joe, thanks for the thoughts about how to recenter yourself by using the word remembering or something like that. That's very helpful.
Oh, the little the little labeling.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it helps to guide back.
Now you're already back at that point. What it guides you to is remembering what your intention was, what you were doing. Yeah, that's good. That's right. My teacher said, just call, anytime you wander off into thoughts, call it thinking. Sometimes that gets you into machine gunning, that you think you have to stop every thought. And there are certain practices where you do tune into each thought that arises, like we were doing as that practice. In general, there are two things. One, thoughts that kind of just bubble up and go by, like a sound that appears and disappears. Then there are ones that really take you away deep into a daydream. And those, it's really clear when you wake up, you go, "Whoa, wow, I was definitely someplace else." And usually it's like a dream, our posture changes, you know, and you go, oh, yeah, and you wake up and you go, uh-oh. And at that point, then you can re-establish your posture and say that was wandering or thinking. There's a trickier one, and that is when you think you're with the breath and you're thinking about being with the breath at the same time. Oh yeah, breathing out, this feels really good. Yep, I'm doing this really well. Yeah, breathing out, noticing it going out, and actually you're the narrator and the breath is secondary. And in that case, you're not really being with the breath and going out, you're still thinking about it. It's the same thing. I know there are some golfers on here. It's the same thing as thinking about your swing while you're swinging. You're not swinging, you're thinking. So be aware of that the mind is a tricky thing. Be aware of that trickiness that it convinces you that you think you're paying attention to what you're paying attention to, but you're really being that voice in the head commenting on it. And at that point you go, oh, thinking, back to the breath. If you were daydreaming, you can say daydreaming. And then at that point, I don't know that you need to say, remember what you were doing. The practice is, when you practice well, the training is to go right back to that. If it's helpful to say, remember, and then remember breath, or remember posture, or remember perceptions, that's fine. But regard it as training wheels, so that it's training you until it's second nature to, as soon as you realize you're back, you naturally go to what you were attending to. That's mindfulness. You see, mindfulness is both a state of being and a practice. The state of being is fully present to whatever you're experiencing moment to moment to moment. The practice is noticing when you're not, when you haven't been, because as soon as you notice, you're back, and then attending. So that's the practice, as well as the state of being. It's a little tricky having the same name for both. I guess we could call it mindfulness and mindfulness practice. Any other questions or comments? Meditation leaves speechless. That's good. Open to that. Well, thank you all so much. And I think the next, is it possible to get a recording of today's session? Greg, all of these sessions, or just about all of them, are posted on my YouTube channel at some point after the session today. So you will be able to watch it on the YouTube channel and record it yourself. There are different recording apps that you can use, I'm sure. Even just your phone voice. But it'll always be there on my YouTube channel. I think it's just at Dr. Joe Parent. I think that's it. And there are at least 50 of them on there now. So you can do this session whenever you'd like. I'm not sure how soon it'll be on, but it'll be pretty soon, maybe within the week. Good. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful. I think we're not on again till June, so have a wonderful rest of May, and we'll see you in June.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. And Charlie, I'll see you Monday.